Hello chess enthusiasts, my name is Miha and welcome to my chessrealm YouTube channel. So we are still at the Tata Steel tournament. We are in the 10th round, a duel between Fabiano Caruana and Richard Rapport. Let's see what happened. Fabiano Caruana had white pieces and he started with c4, e6, knight to c3, knight to f6, e4. We have, let's say, English opening. And now the most popular move is, let's say, a d5 or a c5 also, and black has decided to play c5, allowing white to play e5, attacking knight on f6. Well, knight on f6 doesn't have a lot of good squares, actually there isn't anyone, so knight has to go back to g8, and now white plays d4, striking the center. Now c-pawn captures on d4, queen recaptures, and knight to c6, attacking both queen and pawn on e5. Well, queen has to protect pawn on e5 somehow, so by far the most popular option is queen to e4, which is played almost every time. But in the game, white plays queen to f4. I have only a couple of games with the same position, so let's say a novelty. And now black plays d6, white plays knight to f3. You might think that black can try with d-pawn captures on e5, and after knight recaptures, bishop to e6, pinning this knight, gaining the knight. Well, in this case, white simply plays queen to f7 with checkmate. So first black plays knight to h6, defending this pawn on f7, and now white plays e-pawn captures on d6, bishop recaptures, attacking the queen, and now queen goes to g5. First of all, attacking, or should I say offering the trade the queens, and also attacking defenseless pawn on g7. Now there are more options for black. For example, castling is definitely one of the options, and then continuing with the development. Queen is of course protected. In the game, however, black has decided to trade the queen, so queen captures on g5, and now of course white can capture on with two pieces, but of course white captures with undeveloped pieces, so bishop captures on g5, attacking this pawn on, knight on h6, threatening to double the pawns along the h file, so maybe knight to f5 is definitely one of the better options. But in the game, black plays f5, leaving this knight on h6. Of course, white can capture, black can recapture. Black's pawn structure is worsened, but black has bishop pair. So white has decided not to go for it. Instead, white castles queenside, attacking this bishop on d6. So black responds with bishop to c5, counter-attacking this pawn on f2. And now white plays a very interesting move. Knight goes to e5. Of course, if bishop captures on f2, the knight captures on c6, b-pawn recaptures, and rook to d8. When this king is gone, then here this rook here is for free. But indeed, black could have tried here with sacrificing an exchange after knight to e5. Now rook goes to d8. After king to f7, the only move, rook captures rook. So for a rook, black has a knight and a pawn, and probably black would continue with knight to g6. Now rook could either go back, but here black could have returned the exchange after rook to h7, then kick to g8, rook is trapped, but here rook captures on h6, g-pawn recaptures, bishop recaptures, and after black bishop captures on f2, white is a pawn up, and it's definitely much better because this free pawn on the h file, and also a better harmony between his pieces. And okay, let's go back to our game. In the game, black plays knight to f7. First of all, further protecting this d8 square, and also attacking bishop on g5. And now white captures knight on c6, b-pawn recaptures. Now this bishop is still under attack, as well as pawn on f2, so white cannot defend with bishop to h4, because then we have g5, bishop goes to g3, and after f4 there goes our bishop. So white played bishop to e3, and now of course black grabbed the opportunity to worsen white's pawn structure. Bishop captures on e3, f-pawn recaptures. Now let's see, both sides have a pawn structure made of 3 islands, material is equal, so position is also equal. And now black has decided not to castle. Instead, black pushes king right into the action. King to e7 was played, bishop goes to 2, and now g5 preparing, g5 preparing here this pawn storm on king side, because here black has the majority of pawns, but white doesn't care for the time being. Knight to a4 was played, now h5 was played. Maybe here was a time for white to play h4, attacking this pawn on g5, forcing black to either capture or maybe even g4, blocking the position, which would temporarily leave the white from this pawn store trouble. But in the game, white plays knight to c5, so attacking all these squares here, trying to limit the movement of a black light square bishop, and black pushes further, so h4 was played. And now the time has come for white to challenge this pawn structure, so g4 was played. Now black could have captured immediately, but if f-pawn captures, then bishop captures, pawn on e6 is double attacked, of course double defended, but then at least two pieces would be tied to the defense of this weak pawn. So black plays knight to e5. Now this pawn on g4 is double attacked, and white either has to protect it, or let's say white captures pawn on f5, then e-pawn recaptures, and now these three pawns on the king side are really intimidating, so white has decided to reinforce this pawn on g4, and the correct way to do it was with rook to g1 protecting. Well, white has decided to protect it with rook, but then rook goes to d4. Now we know from the theory of endgame that supporting piece from side is not very helpful, because piece cannot move, so knight capture on g4, bishop recaptures, but here comes intermediate move or zwischenzug. Black plays e5, attacking rook on d4. So first white has to remove the rook, and rook goes to d2, and only now f-pawn captures on g4. And now we have these three black pawns versus one from white, so now white is getting into a serious trouble. Now attacking this g-pawn with either of the rooks is not very helpful, because let's see, if let's say rook goes to g2, then black simply plays g3. Now if white capture, that does not help much, because bishop goes to g3, threatening with here skewering this rook on g2. So after maybe rook 2 goes back to g1, then we have simply h3, and then black will play bishop to f3, attacking this rook, and later with pawn to g4, reinforcing this pawn. Well, black would tie both rooks here on the king side, while leaving his hand free on the queen side, so here black would definitely be better. So in the game, white has decided to grab some material, because as you can see, white is a pawn down, so knight goes to d3, attacking this pawn on e5, but black doesn't defend. Rook to h6 was played, and now of course knight captures on e5, rook goes to e6, attacking this knight, so knight grabs another bone material, so knight goes to g4, and now rook goes to e4, attacking this knight on g4, who is double attacked, so there's no point in defending it with either of the rooks, so knight goes to f2. And now black has two choices, either to capture pawn on e3 or c4. Well, if black captures rook on e3, then white simply plays rook to g1, attacking this pawn. Of course, black couldn't defend with the g4, because this square is double attacked, so here black would lose an important pawn, and the game would be again roughly equal. So in the game, black plays rook captures on c4 check. And here white defends the check with rook to c2, and black has decided to trade rook, so rook captures on c2, king recaptures, and now bishop to e6, attacking this pawn on a2. But white counter attacks rook on g5 with rook to g1, so now pawn on g5 is under attack, and black has decided to counteract the knight with rook to f8. Now knight has to go somewhere, and white has decided to play knight to d3. And now black finally plays g4, so now pawn on g4 is protected by the bishop, and white plays knight to f4, trying to exchange more material, because then the game would be more equal, and also threatening knight to g6, forking both king and rook. So now black has no other option but to play bishop to f5, preventing this unpleasant knight to g5 jump, and also white is in checks. Now white has, let's say, two options, either to stay more on the queen side or to go maybe more to the middle. And white plays king goes to d2, and now black plays rook to d8, again check. Again, white has, let's say, two options, let's say king to c3 or maybe king to e2. Well, white should have played king to c3, because then after, let's say, a king to f6, white could play e4, attacking this bishop on f5, and if bishop captures, then this pawn on g4 is not protected, so rook can grab it, also attacking this pawn on h4. Again, black has lost an important asset, and maybe after, if bishop would go back to c8, then simply knight to d3. White still has one free pawn who can advance, and black definitely has some counterplay here. In the game, white has decided to play king to e2. And now, of course, black puts his king into the action, so king to f6 was played. White plays b3, black plays f5, advancing also on the queen side. And now white plays king to e1. Black further advances with king to e5, and now knight goes back to g2, attacking this pawn on h4, so black defends with rook to h8. And here maybe it was the last time for white to set up some sort of defense, and the correct move was king to f2. Now this g3 square is a double attack, because black definitely intends to play g3 at some point. And of course, if black would try with g3, and after white captures, if black would try to play h3, attacking this knight and also trying to promote this h-pawn, white would simply play rook to h4, interfering the h-file. So now bishop to e4 doesn't help, because white simply plays knight to f3, interfering the diagonal, and also it's check if, I don't know, king goes to e6, then we have forking these two pieces, trading material. If, however, king goes, let's say, somewhere on the file, then simply rook to d1 check, king to c5, and knight goes to h2. And now white is totally fine here. In the game, white makes a fatal blunder. Knight to f4 was played, and now, of course, black plays g3. Now, naturally, black cannot capture on g3, because then we have h3, and black only needs to move to promote to queen. So king to f2 doesn't help, because after h2, rook goes to h1, bishop to e4 attacking, and now after knight to g2, well, white is in some sort of a zugzwang. Black can simply play a king to f5. Now if white removes this knight, then white loses rook. If, however, white removes the rook, then this h-pawn promotes. So maybe after, I don't know, a3, king can go to g4. After b4, a captures, a pawn recaptures, and let's say black makes a random move, rook to h6. Now white has to do something, and in all variations, white is lost. Okay, so in the game, white has decided to play rook goes to g2, and now bishop goes to e4, attacking the rook. White removes the rook to d2, and now black plays h3, preparing this g2, or maybe even g captures on h2. So white makes another random move, a3 was played, waiting for black's next response, and now we have a very nice rook sack, so rook goes to d8. Of course, rook is for free, but if rook captures on d8, then g-pawn captures on h2, and there's nothing that can stop this h-pawn from promoting. Yeah, of course, black can deliver a few check, but that's it. Black would simply go, let's say, somewhere here, and the game would be over soon. So in the game, white plays rook goes to b2, and now bishop goes to f3. Now black is threatening with rook to d1 with checkmate. If white tries to defend with rook to b1, then g-pawn simply captures on h2. King to f2 doesn't help, because then simply black promotes. After rook captures, bishop captures, and black has decisive material advantage. If white tries with h-pawn captures on g3, then We have again simple rook to d1 check, king goes to f2, and after h2 there's nothing that can stop this pawn from promoting. Knight to e2 also doesn't help. Then again g-pawn captures on h2 even after knight to gt, protecting this h square. Simply rook to d1 after king to f2. This pawn promotes. After knight captures, then simply bishop captures with bishop up. This should be enough for victory at this level. And realizing that all is lost in this position, Fabiano Caruana resigned the game. So I hope you like this game. I hope you have learned something from it. If you have any questions, my email is below in the description. Of course, I invite you to visit my Instagram page. That's it for now, and see you soon.